My Weird School Days, Book Number 7. Dr. Brad Has Gone Mad. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Chapter 4. Dr. Brad is Weird. Dr. Brad gave me a little push into room 104. There were signs on the walls. Respect others. Be considerate. Express your feelings. There were a lot of bookshelves, too. Some weird-looking machines and a couch. That's what you lie on when they remove your brain. Actually, I had been in this room before. One time our security guard, Officer Spence, went crazy and used Dr. Brad's lie detector machine to see if I stole my own peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was weird. Officer Spence makes no sense. Lie down on the couch, AJ, Dr. Brad told me. Are you gonna take out my brain and give me a monkey brain? I asked. No, Dr. Brad said. I just want you to look at these pictures and tell me what you see. I lay on the couch, but I was ready to jump up and run away in case he tried to cut open my skull. Dr. Brad held a piece of white cardboard in front of me. It looked like somebody spilled ink on it. What do you see here, AJ? It looks like somebody spilled some ink on that cardboard, I replied. Is that all? Dr. Brad asked. Don't you see a giant spider who is jumping on a pogo stick inside a volcano? No, I said, looking at the card more closely. Dr. Brad didn't look happy. He took out another card with a different ink blot on it and put it in front of my face. And what do you see here? Looks like another ink blot, I told him. Look very closely, Dr. Brad said. Don't you see a hot dog chasing donuts through a tunnel, or a big piece of cheese playing Scrabble with 2 unicorns, or a man in a red coat eating pistachio nuts in a swimming pool? Dr. Brad was getting all excited. His eyebrows were jumping up and down. I looked at the card again. Nope, I said. Looks like an ink blot to me. Interesting, Dr. Brad said as he shook his head and took out another card. How about this one? I guess maybe it looks a little like a cloud, I said, trying to be helpful. Don't you see the umbrella being crushed by the hippopotamus? The bicycle in the sky with no rider on it? The chain that is being swallowed up by the giant boa constrictor? Nope, I said. I don't see any of those things. How can you not see that? Dr. Brad yelled, waving his arms around. It is so obvious. Are you blind? It is right there. Can't you see the big snake? Why can't you see that? I don't know, I said. I just don't see it. Dr. Brad ripped the last picture into a bunch of little pieces. Go back to class, AJ, Dr. Brad said. I will have to do further tests. I made a dash for the door before he had the chance to change his mind and give me a monkey brain. As I ran down the hall, I could still hear him saying, interesting, over and over again. Chapter 5. The Boys Against the Girls. By the time I got back to Mr. Granite's class, everybody was at lunch, so I went straight to the vomitorium to join the guys. Andrea, Emily, and 2 of their girlfriends were sitting at the next table. Michael had a bag of crispy cheese balls. Neil the nude kid had a bag of cheesy crisp balls. Ryan was eating carrot sticks. Ryan will eat anything. You were in Mr. Klutz's office for a long time, AJ, Michael said. Did you get in trouble? Yeah, what did he do to you? Asked Neil. Are you gonna get kicked out of school? Asked Ryan. Nah, I told them. But Dr. Brad is doing some tests on me. They might send me to Dirk School. Dork School? The guys yelled. Isn't that the school for genius kids? Asked Ryan. That's when little Miss Perfect jumped up from her seat. What? Andrea shouted. You're switching to Dirk? My mom has been trying to get me into Dirk ever since I was in kindergarten. They keep turning me down. If anybody should be sent to Dirk School, it's me, not you. That's right, said Emily, who always agrees with everything Andrea says. I wish you would go to Dork School, I told Andrea, so we wouldn't have you around here anymore. Oh, snap, said Ryan. You know, girls are smarter than boys, Andrea said. Some scientists did an experiment and proved it. Some scientists should do an experiment on your face, I told Andrea. Oh, snap, said Ryan. You're mean, AJ, Emily said. She started it, I said. Boys eat mud, said Andrea's other little flunky, who was named Annette. Girls have 6 toes on each foot, said Neil the nude kid. I knew that wasn't true, but it sounded good. Boys are smelly, said Julie, who was also sitting at Andrea's table. Boys go to college to get more knowledge, said Michael. Girls go to Jupiter to get more stupider. Everybody was yelling at one another. Kids at the other tables were looking at us. I was trying to think of something really mean to say about girls, but I couldn't come up with anything good. It didn't matter, though, because at that moment, Dr. Brad came rushing over to our table. Stop! He hollered. Everybody stopped. Stopped. It was so quiet you could hear the pin drop. Not a bowling pin, though. They make a lot of noise when they drop. One of those little pins, like the ones my mom uses to sew stuff. No more of this fighting, Dr. Brad yelled. No more shouting. You must learn to get along. Dr. Brad went on and on, telling us that boys and girls need to be polite and respectful of one another so we can live in peace and harmony and all that other stuff counselors always say. Everybody was quiet while he talked. We all looked at the floor. Anytime a grown-up yells, you're supposed to look at the floor. Nobody knows why. I'm sorry, Dr. Brad, said Andrea, who never misses the chance to brown-nose a grown-up. Are we going to be punished? Asked Emily quietly. No, Dr. Brad said. I have another idea. Tomorrow morning, I want each of you to bring in your favorite toy from home. What? I asked. Our favorite toy? That's right, Dr. Brad said. Come to room 104 with your toy first thing in the morning. But, Ryan said. No buts, shouted Dr. Brad. We all giggled because Dr. Brad said but, which sounds the same as but, even if it's spelled differently. Anytime a grown-up says but, you should giggle. That's the first rule of being a kid. Chapter 6. The word to end all words. The next morning, I brought Stryker Smith to school with me. He's a superhero action figure from the future who travels through time and fights bad guys with a sword that's attached to his hand. Stryker Smith is cool. He can turn into a jet plane and fly too. One time on the school bus, I tied a string to Stryker Smith's leg and threw him out the window so he could fight bad guys who were attacking the bus. But Stryker fell under the bus and got decapitated. That's a fancy way of saying his head came off. I was really sad. The good news is that I got a new Stryker Smith for Christmas. Michael brought in a Chewbacca action figure from Star Wars. Ryan brought in Megatron, who is a Transformer who fights in the epic battle between the Autobots and Decepticons. Neil the Nude Kid brought in Private Gunn, who is a helicopter assault trooper who can breathe underwater. He comes with an attack dog and a deluxe blowtorch. Action figures are cool. The girls, of course, brought in their Barbies. This is Ballerina Barbie, Andrea said when we all met outside room 104. Isn't she lovely? Oh, yes, said Emily. Do you like my circus star Barbie? I brought in Ponytail Barbie, said Annette. I brought in Wedding Barbie, said Julie. Just listening to girls talk about Barbies made me want to throw up. But soon, Dr. Brad arrived. He unlocked the door and led us into his office. These are very nice toys you have, he told us. Why did you tell us to bring them to school? Asked Andrea. I want you to trade toys with each other, he said. Huh? I want each boy to give your favorite toy to a girl, said Dr. Brad, and each girl to give your favorite toy to a boy. What? I said. I'm not giving a girl my Stryker Smith. This will help each of you relate to others, Dr. Brad said. Give it a try, AJ, just for a few minutes. Here, Arlo, Andrea said. You can play with my Barbie. Andrea held out her Barbie to me. I backed away like she was holding up a dead rat. I didn't want to touch the thing. Ugh, I shouted. Barbie germs. Don't be silly, Dr. Brad said. This will be fun. He took our action figures and gave them to the girls. He took the Barbies and gave one to each of us guys. I'm not playing with a doll, I announced. You already do, Arlo, said Andrea. Action figures are just dolls for boys. They are not, I said. Are too. We went back and forth like that for a while until I finally had to say R2D2. Anytime somebody says R2, you should say R2D2. That's the first rule of being a kid. You better not break our action figures, Ryan warned the girls. You better not break our Barbies, said Andrea. Stop! Shouted Dr. Brad. He led me and the guys across the hall to the conference room. Dr. Brad told us to play with the Barbies and he would come and check up on us in a little while. Then he left and closed the door behind him. I looked at Michael. Michael looked at Neil. Neil looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at me. I looked at Barbie. I don't want to play with Barbies, said Neil the nude kid. Me neither, said Michael. Hey, I said, I have an idea. Let's have a Barbie war. AJ, you're a genius, said Michael. No wonder they want to send you to dork school. Me and Michael put 2 Barbies on one end of the long table. Ryan and Neil put the other 2 Barbies at the far end. It was time for war. The war to end all wars. The war of the Barbies. There was just one problem. Barbies don't come with weapons or anything cool that shoots. What fun are toys if they can't shoot anything? But that's when I came up with the genius idea of the century. There was a box of rubber bands on the windowsill. I gave a handful of them to Neil, Ryan, and Michael. The guys said I should get the Nobel Prize. That's a prize they give out to people who don't have bells. Ready, aim, fire, I yelled. It was all-out war. Me and Michael and Ryan and Neil were going crazy. The air was thick with flying rubber bands. Die, ballerina Barbie, I shouted. Eat lead, circus star Barbie, shouted Ryan. Ooh, my Barbie has been hit, shouted Neil. We might have to amputate her head to save her life, shouted Michael. Rubber bands were flying fast and furious when the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. The door opened. Well, that's not the amazing part, because doors open all the time. That's what they do. They're doors. But suddenly, Dr. Brad burst in. What's going on in here? He shouted. I heard a lot of noise. We're fighting the ultimate battle of good versus evil, I explained, with Barbies. Stop it, yelled Dr. Brad. No more fighting. Dr. Brad was really mad. He made us pick up all the rubber bands. We're sorry, Ryan said. I hope Z girls did not cheat your action figures same way you cheated their dolls, Dr. Brad said as he led us back across the hall to room 104. And you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years what we saw in room 104. Chewbacca was wearing a dress. He was holding a little purse and posed next to a little ironing board. Private Gunn had a wig on his head, a little hair dryer in his hand, and pink ice skates on his feet. Megatron had on a tutu and wore bracelets on his arms. And Striker Smith was wearing high heels. "What did you do to our action figures?" I shouted at the girls. "We're playing dress-up," said Annette. "Doesn't Striker Smith look adorable in turquoise heels?" asked Emily. "We accessorized him," said Andrea. "Ah!"